Okay, let's get started. Good day, everyone. My name is Maryheth, and I'm the Managing Director at CSI, a Moody's Analytics company. I'm pleased to welcome you to this webinar, Investing in Inclusion, where we'll be highlighting the career and work of Maryheth Cabrera. March is the month focused on the advancement of women, and advancement comes in many forms. Advancing one's career, launching a business, being heard, and having a voice. Today, we're featuring Maryheth Cabrera, and we're going to be talking about women advancing in business, community banking, and how advisors can interact and should interact with women investors. But first, let's begin with a land acknowledgement. Canada is situated on the traditional territories of many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, places that have long served as sites of meeting and exchange. We recognize and respect the traditional custodians of the lands on which and the waters around which we meet today. So before we begin, let me give you some housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded. Any ratings, financial reporting, analysis, projections, or other observations constituting any part of the information conveyed are and must be construed solely as statements of opinion and not statements of fact or recommendations to purchase, sell, or hold any securities. We ask that no one record the webinar without a Moody's explicit written permission. And lastly, no one's permission to quote any of the questions or comments made by our panelists or by the webinar audience. Additionally, the views and opinions expressed or referred to by the speaker are solely those of the speakers and not the views, opinions, policies, or positions of the Canadian Securities Institute or Moody's. All members of the audience are currently on mute. If you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box, which you will find at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So let me first start off by introducing Maryheth. Maryheth is co-founder and chief operating officer, the COO at Wovio, the community wallet for rotating savings and credit building that aims to provide financial security to non-prime Canadians. She has firsthand experience in immigrating to Canada and starting in a new country. She's developed a professional life here in Canada and recognized the critical need for alternative financial solutions that empower women. So let's start with our first question. Maryheth, you arrived here in Canada, and before you started with Wovio, next slide, please. Before you started in Wovio, tell us a little bit about your career. We're going to start with the career, and then we're going to move to the way you see business for women and how you've developed. So that's kind of what we're going to do. So let's start with your when you came to Canada and when you started. Talk to a little bit about your career.
Hey, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It led quite a ride before landing at Wovio. So I moved to Canada around 2018, and I was a filmmaker back in my country. So I used to work in short films, editing. I even worked in a horror movie. And when I moved to Canada, I landed in a PEI. As you know, it's a really small place. So then I realized that it meant to start wearing many hats and many jobs, like different things. Like I think it's basically the path for every immigrant. It's starting from scratch. So I landed different jobs, even going trades and all little things. But it ended up like a group of friends in an incubator back in Charlottetown when we found that we all had the same struggles. So that was my first approach to this group of friends, like just trying to do something different. PI is really small. There is no any big bank infrastructure. Like for people that don't know much about PI, we don't even have a Costco, so it's really small. We don't have anything really big. So we ended up working on an idea that was resonated with all of our cutthroat backgrounds. There was a rotational savings, and yeah, that's how it started. It was a bunch of friends just working for free, trying to do things right. And as of now, we just closed our second investment round. I started just as a contractor, like doing things for fun. Now I'm working on operation recently, just from I think 1 month ago, I started in that new position.
So maybe just take me back a little bit on your career. So when you started in PEI,
Yes.
not a big place. It's not like you landed in Toronto. How did you navigate the place? How did you figure it out? What kinds of work did you do? How did you sort of get in? Because very often when new Canadians arrive, the first question is, well, how do I start here? How do I get a job?
Yes. So I was lucky to be part of an incubator ecosystem there. It's a startup zone. It was really good for connecting with other people. But to be honest, we also had COVID happening. So it was everything all at once. So I just started like sending my CVs everywhere, trying to get something. Because it was at one point desperate. It was really hard to get a job in filmmaking or in anything, to be honest. So I ended up working in trades for a few months. That was really good for me. Like it helped me to understand better the struggles of a lot of people back in PI. We were building houses for social purposes. So it was really good for me, for my English, even like we are talking about starting everything, you're burning again. So I think that was, I was trying to do baby steps, getting better understanding, a lot of like a whole new word at the same time. So to be honest, we were really connected. We were really well connected in terms of community, and our cultural backgrounds really help us because as on PI we have a bunch of students that are like just studying far from home, and then we have a small ecosystem of companies and Canadians that are really root there because there are a few families, you find the same people everywhere, you just get to know everybody. So for me it was like I was just reborn again in a new place, trying to catch it up all at the same time. So definitely I try to, as many immigrants, to find my place in my profession. It was impossible, to be honest. I really enjoy many things that I did, but it still is a young industry. But then I figured out that we all have the same, we all talk about money. That's a central point. That's a pivotal point in everybody. We really needed to understand that, to get it right. I landed on December, at end of December, and I filed taxes like I think 3 months after I landed. Everybody was telling me you need to do it. Like it's really important. Now I understand that it was I it wasn't necessary, but I was really struggling, like trying to get everything together. So I think it's just a mix up of experiences that you need to be really aware of and put on top cultural difference, lingual barrier, and so on. Yeah.
And how did you start? Like, how did you get your first job? How did you present yourself?
Okay, so actually it was my first official work because I worked a lot as a freelancer, but it was with trades. It was an immigrant program. So we had 10 people of different backgrounds, like just training to be good on trades, like working towards our red seal. We were 10, I believe. Most of them were, I think it was the only woman there, and they were like crazy, with crazy careers, like 4 years of architecture. There was engineers, and we were all in the same room, struggling with the same problems, trying to get our first job on trades. So yeah, I just applied for that. I think they saw something in me about get a chance to do something that, again, it's a male-dominated field. And that was it. It was really helpful. It was a really, really good experience. It definitely shaped my perception of Canada, of work. It was really valuable for me working like out of the field, and understanding how the economies are different. Yeah.
I'm very often asked, how do I get my first job? Right? How do I land that first? Nobody knows me. I'm not from this country. I don't have any experience here. What would you give as advice to someone who's a new Canadian?
Definitely, I will say that volunteer was thing that was that changed my completely picture of getting to know people. It's really challenging for the first time to and I used to say that it was like a Canadian approval. You need somebody else that say that you are good enough, because nobody knows you here, and especially in a small place as PI, it's really hard to connect sometimes. So I think like volunteering is the first piece of advice that I will give to anybody that is struggling or just trying to get familiar with something. And it will be fun, actually. I volunteer on a TV channel, community channel back in PI, and it was great. It was the best experience. It helped me a lot, and they were also guiding me, because even if they are not immigrants, they at some point face the same challenge. They were young and they were like, oh, how I get my first job. They just had better tools and understanding. And when you get connected with that people, you start to acquire those tools as well, and like just build your network. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm jumping ahead a little bit just to make a link. We know you eventually set up Wovio, so you're now in the financial services industry. But put yourself in the position of someone who wants to get into the financial services industry and they're a new immigrant. Obviously, you thought you were going to be in film, and then you thought, I better get a trade, I better do something. What would you give as advice to someone trying to get into financial services?
Definitely, the first step is getting familiar with the system. I think when you're from different backgrounds, we have different economies, different ways of approach things. But it's first to dissect our relationship with money. We have a lot of taboos. We have a lot of dynamics that are preset by the society and how we deal with things. I was really scared, let's say, for buying my first car or getting debt, all those things. So it's getting to know the pains that we all share as humans. That's the first step to understand the financial world. I think we need to, it's just in my opinion, we need to get away of that suit way of doing things. I just want to wear a suit and be really fancy and go to an office. No, it's about reality. Like money really affects how people develop their dreams, fulfill their needs, so many things. So we need to ground the financial needs to. It's a key factor that should be unnoticed for everybody, for the common people. So I think as a financial service person that I want, or if I want to join that industry, I will say, how can I impact people through real tools that adapt to their needs, instead of how the system can get this person that fits perfectly for what we solve.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide. I sort of want to move you towards founding Wovio, but really, how did you sort of navigate yourself into the financial services career? Clearly, you were in filmmaking, that's one thing. Then you were in trades, and all of a sudden you're in financial services. So, and when you got into it, did you feel supported? Let's just stop there with those sort of first questions.
Well, definitely, I think it was like a labyrinth for me, was many things at the same time. So for me, it was just following the flow. You're told that get your SIN number, get your bank account, get your phone line. And I did it. I did it in the easiest way possible. I just saw which bank had the most, like how many branches they have on my city. And the one with the most, I just walked there and got my account. That actually I'm still stuck with that, because I think like somebody took that decision for me because they know better, right? So for me, it was just trying to follow in all the steps that somebody put in the paper for me, and it was an autopilot. I don't think I took the decision. I was just executing tasks. In some sense, I feel supported because I had the information, but I think I didn't have the knowledge and the right mindset to understand and take decision on top of that. So I think it's not just about translating what you need to do. It's talking people on the same on the language that they need to be talked. I wish I had a better support system that helped me understand that we were that I was part of a different economy, that it was saving based and this country's credit based. we're talking, yes, we are talking about how a credit score work, a SIN number. So I was just scared about the SIN number, let's say. Somebody told me, you cannot send that number or show that number to anybody. And I was just scared. It's like, okay, I'll do it. But it will be better if I was approached with a language that it's helping me understand why this is important, what happens, what are the consequences. So I wish a better material, like really tailored for my needs. I was really young, and I know a lot of people that struggle with their first credit card. So they moved from another country to Canada to study, and they ended up in debt because they are from save-based economy. So they ended up thinking for some reason that it's free money. And it's absurd, but it happens so much. And that was one of the reasons that we started like talking about Wobio, because we ended up saying, oh, we all struggle the same. We all find some financial problems, and it's not about money, but how do we manage that money?
Okay. So it was really around how to sort of navigate the system, right? You come from one economy, you come into another economy. It's quite different. How did you, I mean, you talked about having a group of women that you talked to or you exchanged with. How did you go from there to founding a company?
Okay, so there was one thing that resonated with everybody, and it's rotational savings. So you may know this, but or don't, but it's called differently in different parts of the world. So we have Susu, Tanda, Yihui. We have so many names, and it's just a pool of people, a group of people that pull money on the same pot, and then they take turns to take the money. So this is a way for access credit really fast and zero interest. And that was something that we all knew, like all our moms and parents were doing that for years, like decades. So at some point we say, hey, this is a good opportunity for something that was actually practiced in Canada for years informally. It's like, hey, we're doing this to try to tap on our tuition, our business, or many things. Let's figure out a way to do it right, to do it impactful, and put it on service of people that it's more than just transactions. Let's try to build a system to help them organize this money and follow that it's secure and it's as reliable as a bank.
Okay. So again, if you're thinking about founding a company, how did you move from, I'm talking to a group of women to we're going to found something. We're going to create a business.
I think we just saw a lot of potential. We were really underserved in PI. It was really hard even for entrepreneur to get a credit for their first business. It was just something impossible. So we started noticing that we really needed to make it bigger. It was a tool, but it's not a tool for everybody because it's sometimes like just really, really informal. So for us, it was just a aha moment when we said like, this is great. And we can maybe tap on credit history, and we can maybe tap on students that they don't have the money, they just saving through the whole semester. And it was like, hey, this is good. We should give it a try. It's, as I mentioned, this started really informally. We were like just saying, I wasn't even part of the very beginning, but we were just, hey, you record and you do marketing and you blah, blah, blah. And it got serious at some point. It was like, okay, this is working, this is helping. This is something that we all share as a mission. We are a mission-oriented company, so we are really this is helping. So let's keep doing and try to get it bigger. Like the first time that you heard a user saying, or a member saying, oh, I got to pay my tuition with your system. That's moment do you say, hey, it's worth everything we're doing, it's working, and it's and then we just need to scale. We need to make it available for everybody.
Okay. So you've got an idea, you want to found Rovio. Did you go to a bank? Did you get financing? How did you start the business?
Actually, yes. So we just pull funds from everybody, but we got a first thought that it was a loan from a bank, and it was really hard because it were like 4 co-founders. 3 of them were on a student visa, and just one was permanent residence, was a permanent resident. So it was really hard for the bank lending money to a bunch of students. Like it was a no-no. So we had to wait until somebody got the status and got the papers. So it was a trust process on each other, like saying, okay, I'm going to take that loan on under my name for the company because the bank is not trusting us anyway. So it was, yeah, it was really, really at the beginning it was hard, but now that we are evolving, we are being chased by banks for loans. So it's crazy how at the beginning, just because of the status, it was really hard to get. But definitely we're really happy that at some point we got that push. Otherwise, without that loan, it wouldn't be the same story. Mhm.
Let's just talk about the issues that women face when they're going into, I suppose, any entrepreneur, but women in particular, when they're going into a bank to get support.
Yes, I would say I'm going back again to all the backgrounds, cultural differences, gender bias. I think we have so many stereotypes that don't help with the idea of a woman being good at numbers, that that affects the confidence about money. Like we're hesitant about we're doing the right decision. We're waiting for the man to provide. They are usually the societal norms are they're the ones that are providing a home, and that affects how we deal with money. We're sometimes being separated from those hard conversations because in some terms we are really good at soft skills. Maybe we're really good at relationship with people, but we are not for some reason good at and we're in that set of numbers or banking balance sheets. So I think that's the very first factor that really impact how we access services. So building confidence on us is a hard factor if you're told all your life that you're not good at doing that, or if we have this image that it's well, the gap is getting smaller, but it still is there. If we have this stereotype of a shopping crazy woman that it's go and spending all her credit card money, so it's those are things that even if they're not true, even if somebody yes or somebody not, it's okay. But they're just talking on how do you approach with money, with fear. Maybe you're approaching money with caution. We are like we're putting women just in spending stereotype, but not in the investing, not in the ones that it's building wealth. So those social norms sometimes take a piece of our confidence about how we speak about money.
And how did you reverse that? How did you see yourself shift from the culture you came from, which was more of a got money to as cash, if you will, to this credit economy?
I think it was the first piece was literacy. I think there is a lot of work to do about it. It's really hard for some cultures even to talk about money. For me, let's say it's my background. You don't talk about how much you earn. You don't share that even with your financial advisor. So sometimes are hard conversations, but if you like from a literacy point of view, empower people with why this is important, why do you need to talk with the right people? That's the first step to start like broken that social norms that are affecting women to access services. I think what I've seen in my experience is that a lot of these groups of women are relying on informal services or savings to build their wealth, and those are really valid, and they are usable information how they are using that wealth and moving. So let's just empower them to be as good as they are on those informal platforms to the system that we already have. So it's how you can make it work for you, as you have been doing for years. I think it's basically a lot of people, it's even scared about using cash. For even in my experience, the first credit card that I ever got was in Canada. In Colombia, it was incredible, hard to get it. I tried multiple times. So I think it's just right service, right people.
So talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that women face when they're starting a business.
Oh, okay. So I think there is one thing, and is we're most associated with some kind of industries, some type of industries. So definitely one of the struggles was to hear the investors to get to hear my voice. That's the very first thing. They want to talk with the guy that is really bold, really well dressed, and has his computer hat with a bunch of numbers and can impress them. And for some reason, they believe that I couldn't be that person. So I think that was the first barrier for me. To sometimes I think our voices are underheard just because we had some affinity on, let's say, as I mentioned, soft skills, or maybe we're more about people and relations. But it's still, I think anything of that excludes the other part of being good at what we need to talk those hard conversations about numbers. So it was how I gained your trust, because I'm a stranger asking for money, trying to pitch an idea, and how I earned your trust, and how do you trust me even when I'm not the stereotypical person that will pitch you this idea. So I think that was the very first struggle that we have as in entrepreneurship. I was always, in some sense, just the note taker. And it's like, no, I'm here to raise my voice and share ideas that are as valid as any other in this table.
Okay, so let's move on to talk about your founding of Rovio. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what is a community-based saving and credit model, how does it work, and what were you proposing? What is this alternative for financing?
Well, so we utilize a community-based savings and credit model. As I mentioned, it's called rotational savings. In this model, communities together pool money. Each member contributes an equal amount of money to the pool, and each member takes the whole pot. The beauty of this community-based banking is that we are supporting this practice about the mutual cooperation over transactions. So the first is people, then it's money. So our foundation rests on trust, shared experience, mutual benefits. So we empower communities over their finances. The first thing is that they access credit with zero interest. And on top of that, with all these transactions that are rotating are being reported to credit bureaus. So you're actually getting credit history at zero interest. You're just transacting, that you may use our e-transfers, but we are making a formal process of what people practice into our financial system. So we are putting you outside of that part of doing this on cash, and we are putting a flag that say, hey, this person has really good behavior. It's paying a loan, basically. And it's also really rewarding, as those users of members are socially connected. They are sharing goals. So usually they are really happy about building something for travel. So it's like, hey, I got my ticket finally. Oh, thank you for everybody. So we're making the bank is the people. it's not us, it's how we interact between the community to make these power backs to them. So that's basically Wobio. We have so many other features that are helping, that we are building, but our vision is definitely build a social network for money. We're not talking about people, money that is being used by people, but people that have needs, and money is just a way to get there. How we help them easier and faster.
So talk to me about someone who walks into Rovio and wants to work with you. How do you figure out whether there's someone you want to work with? Well, how do they get included in your community? What do they have to do first? Tell us how it works.
Yeah, so for us, it's really important to be value aligned. So as I mentioned, we try to break the mold of being a really typical financial service company. We try to make it really community oriented. We rely on how we can put our personal experience out in the financial world. That usually it's not the case. So I think that's the first thing that we want to hear from them. We are just growing, and we need a lot of people that are really well versed in how the financial works. We need to understand how all this huge infrastructure that it's been for years and years, how it's working. So we need a deeply understanding of that, but a community sense that can help us how we can transform these tools that are here that work for a lot of people, how we translate them in the service of community. And we're not talking about being not for profit. We're talking about how we can be a for profit, making this work for everybody. We have a huge segment of people, it's 25% of creating visible people in Canada, that I know for firsthand that how banks are trying to get them in the system, but they're not enough. They're not good enough still to join that system. So I think like we need to believe that there is power in that. There is a lot of people that there is an industry there that it's not being that nobody's taking care of. So it's have this, I think, background affinity, social affinity of what we are doing.
If I understand correctly, a bank will deal with people who can take out a loan, and they have the credit worthiness and all the things you need to be able to take out a loan. The alternative for people is often to put in their own money and to start a business like that. Would you say that your community approach is kind of in the middle between I do it all myself, or I can get a loan from a bank?
Yeah, I think it's in the middle. I think what I think is really important for us is like, let's first deal with your relationship with money, with your access problem, and then you have the tools to really tap into all the offer and services that are around. You need first to get that tools and understand everything right before getting a big loan, because I have experience and on some of our members with really good credit scores that ended up in debt because they had access to a really good service, like really good amounts of money, but they weren't ready because they just quit their job or something. So it's like, oh, well, he was ready for the system, but their situation, it wasn't the right one to get that service. And if a financial advisor will hear that story like as a whole, they will say, hey, don't take that loan if you're not ready for that, even when you are approved. So we're trying to stop just in the middle when we are helping them to get the tools, and then they're free to tap in any other one. Like, we don't want to be excluding. We are not saying, oh, this is just, if you're community based, just work here and you can never graduate to like the big banks. No, we say like, this is a tool for you as long as it works, but it's the first thing, it's empower you with information. And a way that we we are doing to tap on that literacy piece is for us, we have a repayment rate around 97%. So that's great. A lot of people, it's repaying and trusting their community. but we still have this 3%. And as we are not, we're just doing financial services, we are not putting those on collections or big company calling behind. What we are trying to build is, when we exhaust all of our processes, we just ask you, hey, do you want to take a literacy course to get a discount on your debt, but you are learning? Like, let's exchange this for knowledge. So we are not just writing off a debt and a number that, hey, you're not worth for our system. So let's talk, understand what's failing, and let's give you another chance to go back and give it another try.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, and maybe you can talk to us a little bit more about how Rovio works.
Yeah, so this is a really awesome example that we have. It's the Whole Woman Network on Ontario. So they're an incredible community of women that's they're working on literacy and financial services, and how do you introduce yourself of this first generation of Canadians back in the whole Canadian system. So right now we have plus 100 members that have raised plus 300K dollars on just rotational groups. And it's, when we talk about this number, that it's not really big when we talk about banks, but we are talking about loans that start from 500. So it's not that amount, not that much money, but they're being really impactful on their life. So they're usually taking those loans for business financing, for education, for tuition, for household expenses. So we're talking about immediate needs, and there is money moving there. So they're saving money on interest that in other services like traditional service they will be charged. And they're more than that, they're accessing faster the money what they need. So when they're completed their goals, they are more likely to pay. So we are understanding that the relationship with money is not just about spending, but it's how I feel, how I take my accountability, but I understand how this is changing my life. How it's, even if it's small, they were really good. And I'm really happy to hear when somebody told it, I pay my child tuition, like I pay my debt. He's like, that's awesome. That's great, because you did it yourself. We were just an enabler, but the community itself were helping each other to get that. So this is a perfect example. With them, we have a crazy good repayment rate. I think right now it's 99%. And the people that's left, they are just working on some repayment plans, and they're really happy talking about it, and it's really easy going in general. But this is a perfect user case of how this is changing communities. And even though we are community first, we understand that it's also for people, like for common people. So we had so many users from this community moving to creating their own community. So they are just inviting their neighbors, their colleagues, hey, let's try this and let's build a group for access credit. So this were month to month that it's helping us growing. It's just I think the reward of them fulfilling what they wanted to do financially.
Okay, and how do women find out about Rovio? How do people get to you?
Okay, so well, the very first and easy one, it's wovio.com.ca. But how they find it, it's like we were talking about the same thing on different terms. So Whole One Network have practiced the Rosca model for quite a long time, but then we were the perfect fit because we had the same model. We were doing the same thing, but we just offered them the platform to do it, the automation, the credit building piece, so the communities can take care of the strategies for growth and for empowered people, and we take care of the money. We just automate that, and they can save their time to build better communities, better strategies. And yeah, but definitely, usually this our path, it's people that it's really aligned, people that knows what we are talking about. Once they hear it in their language, once we say, oh, it's in Africa, it's susu, and it's, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. So yeah, usually it's socially connected people that found. Mhm.
So tell us a little bit more about that, because clearly I come from a Canadian culture. I don't know what you just said is. Um, I'm supposing that this is really a bridge between other cultures, other ways of looking at economy, and coming to, I guess, North America, really, and finding our system and trying to find your way in the system.
Yes, so I think that the core of the system is, as I mentioned, the rotational savings. Once you get that, you can get access to money without interest and trusting your community. I think that's the hardest part to tap on, because to get access in the Canadian system, you always have something on top, an interest, or your credit score needs to be X and Y. So to make it simple, it's just how we all pull money together. It's like just back in school when a group of friends were doing like, let's go to X and Y. I'll put that amount. So it's it's just a group of people pulling funds. What it's powerful is that you can start working with people that it's aligned with your own goals. So we have groups of $50 working for a travel, but we have group of thousands dollars building for companies. So it can be tailored to any size, but it's like, how do you align with the right people? And that's what we're aiming to have, to give you the peace of mind that you are connecting with the right people that will help you. We also have some tools that help us. The first question always is, what happens if somebody doesn't pay? I'll be affected. So in informal services and communities, that's common. If you don't pay, I'll get a discount of my piece. But we have built default protections. We have built strategies to, even if it's communal, we don't want nobody to be affected. So if we build good behaviors together, we'll have better financial decisions. So that's our aim, to put everybody in sync. And basically, yeah, I think it's a big concept sometimes when we are talking about this.
So talk to me a little bit about these default. How do you know that somebody should be in your community, deserves to be in your community? How do you build that trust?
Yeah. So our very first step is to give them access to right amounts. We don't want them to be crazy about high caps, because we already experienced that. So our first step always is to have this KYC process. We need to know who they are. And that's especially difficult with newcomers or credit invisibles, because we do that with credit match, and sometimes they don't have any data. So once we confirm the identity of each user, I think it's to confirm that we're giving you access to something that it's enough for you to prove that this model works for you, and you're aware of the responsibilities of this model. So what we are building, it's just savings groups that are automated. So it's just a way of you to testing without compromise anybody else's money. So we have, let's say, like a bot group. Everybody, it's a robot, but you are building that behavior. So you are trusting, we are trusting you to helping you get access to that credit, but we are not putting you with other members that may be afraid of you not being good at it. And we also have this accountability of communal groups. If you're building that with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, there is a social piece that help you to be on top of your finances. You don't want to really let down your friend. You don't want to let down your family. So we're really trusting on them to, hey, let's work why we're doing this. Let's understand everybody's goals. let's kick off that group, and everybody is going to be really excited about the wins that are for everybody here. And we're just stepping away of this financial model that is really individual, but moving to a communal system. Even it's really decentralized, but our idea is even when money is segregated, we want to deal as a whole. We are a group of people building something together.